Okay, Eamon?
Yep.
Right, here we go. That's called Finally Some Fun. This was recent, May 1st, 2012. It was getting light out Monday morning when I started driving home from work. It was overcast and grey and wet, and my mind was mostly on getting some sleep. But as I drove, I began thinking about how bored I was. I really have been bored. On the spur of the moment, I decided to go have some fun. No idea what, but it's been too long since I've had any. I had all day. I got on the Eisenhower and started heading west. Traffic was already slow. I wondered if I'd made a mistake, but soon I was on the I-88, which was clear. Randomly, I exited RT-59 by Aurora, kept driving and started looking around for something interesting. All of a sudden, I was at Fox Valley Mall. I hadn't been there in many years. There's a road that rings the parking lots outside the mall. I drove slowly along the road, circling the mall a couple of times, hoping that something would catch my eyes, and wondering what kind of fun I could make for myself outside of a mall that isn't open yet. There's a Greek restaurant on the west side of the mall. It has its own building and own parking lot. The lot was empty. I drove around the back of the restaurant and saw a wooden enclosure where they kept their dumpster. It was a pretty big enclosure for a dumpster. I stopped and got out of the car to take a look. Could be interesting.
Oh, I bet it will be.
Dumpster again.
And dumpster's the best place he gets.
So we-
Are
Maybe
you
Mikey
lagging out
touches
there, Minnie?
I think
Minnie?
he killed himself.
Hello? Hello?
You got... Yeah, hello.
Alright, is that alright again?
Yeah.
I like dumpsters. This whole enclosure is...
That answers our question.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's so...
Little bits of garbage are all over the asphalt pavement and on the wooden walls. There's a shovel, a grey plastic garbage can, a stack of bricks, some firewood in the shed on one side. I guess that every customer wouldn't want to see what's kept in it. I wanted to play in the garbage. I'd known this for a long time. I couldn't keep pretending that I'd changed. I don't need to do horrible things to myself anymore. I had to do something to make myself feel real again, and this was the time. So I turned off the car and pulled the big wooden doors shut so I was fully shielded from view. I was taking a risk of not knowing how soon the kitchen staff would arrive, but I figured I had at least an hour. I took a deep breath and pressed on my crotch through my dreams. I was getting wet from just the anticipation of whatever might happen. I got undressed, dropping my clothes on top of the stack of bricks, which seemed the one relatively clean spot inside the enclosure. I probably didn't need to be totally naked, but I did it anyway. It was chilly out, and the wet asphalt felt cold under my bare feet. The biggest dumpster, a blue one with two black plastic lids, caught my attention first. This was the one for regular garbage. I lifted one of the lids and looked inside. Only... The fuck up.
That's her.
Yeah.
No way.
Is it really?
Yeah.
How did you
Oh,
find that out?
oh my god.
I linked it on Facebook and a thumbnail came up.
What? You found her on Facebook?
No, I linked the blogspot page on Facebook and a thumbnail came up.
Oh my god. Just think, probably in that picture right there, there's
Maggots
maggots
in
all up in her, yeah.
Anyway. I lifted one of the lids and looked inside and saw only black for a moment until my eyes adjusted. It was empty. The garbage men must have come during the night. Disappointed, I quietly closed the lid. There was a little black dirt on my hand. I smeared it across my breast just to feel dirty. Another smaller dumpster was for grease and just had one lid. There was a whitish grey and light brown grease congealed all around the edge of the lid with little bits of old food caked in it. It looked awful, so I leaned forward and smeared my boobs into the grease. It felt rough and uncomfortable at first against my sensitive nipples. It was also slippery and smelled bad.
Imagine.
I liked having it on my boobs. I wondered what was inside the dumpster. Lifting the lid, I found a plastic grid across the opening. I guessed to keep large things from falling inside. And below that was dark. I couldn't tell how much grease was inside, but the grid itself was caked with the same brown and grey crust of congealed grease. But there was much more of it. It formed little grease icicles everywhere. It looked truly gross. I ran my fingers across part of the grid. Globs of grease came off in my hand. I squeezed it, feeling the ooze between my fingers. It had a sharp, sour smell to it, so disgusting. I brought my hands down between my legs and pressed the grease against my vaginal lips. It felt so nasty, but good at the same time. Smearing the grease between my lips with my middle finger, I thought, yeah, my poor pussy waited so long to get what it deserves. Finally, some abuse.
Oh, God damn, I hate my life right now.
The front of the grease dumpster was too close to the wall for me to stand directly in front of it, or I'd have gotten more of myself onto the grid. Instead, I managed to cover up most of the front of my body with grease and ended up leaning across the grease dumpster playing with my clit. I was incredibly horny for the first time in a long time. I wish that the garbage dumpster hadn't been empty. That's when I noticed a little grey plastic garbage can. Again, it was worth a look. It turned out to be the jackpot. The can was half full of discarded food. I could see pieces of vegetable meat, noodles, rice, peels, mussel shells, all sorts of stuff mixed together with wet used napkins and used straws.
Ooh, those
I could tell
napkins, man.
immediately that they scrape off people's plates into this can. Coming back to the kitchen, I was surprised how much of it there was. It smelled really bad. I wanted it.
Oh my God.
I pushed the garbage can over, got on my hands and knees and started pulling the mess of discarded food out onto the filthy pavement in front of the dumpsters. I think I'm right to say this was scraped off people's plates, but there also seemed to be scraps in the kitchens too. The garbage a little deeper down was darker and more brown. I decided this must be older than what's on top, so that's what I want. I practically have my head in the can as I scooped the garbage out from deep inside. I noticed myself breathing hard. I hadn't been this excited in a long time. I sat down right in the middle of the mess, scooped up a handful and pressed it against my vagina. It felt cold and gross, but I didn't care. At least some of it went inside me. I was really wet already, but the grease helped it to go in.
So wait, was she wet or was the grease wet? How does she know the difference at this point?
This is what I wanted, I thought to myself, naked, sitting in a pile of garbage and masturbating with it. My heart is pounding and I feel alive. I can get so sick from this, but that just makes me more excited. There's a beer bottle in the pile. I pull it out and set it aside. Some greyish lumps of something. I think it's fat, and I push it into my vagina along with wilted mushy greens and some rice. They must have served a lot of rice because it's everywhere. A lot of black and silver a long black and silver strip of skin of a fish. It smelled really putrid. I pushed this inside me too. This is what my body is for, I think. This is what my vagina is for. Making me feel like this. Why did I try and avoid it so long?
Oh,
My vagina felt full, but I wanted to keep going. I thought of pushing it all out and starting it over, but I noticed the beer bottle again. I picked up the bottle and rolled myself over to my side. Holding the bottle by the neck with both hands, I pushed the large end inside of me. I closed my legs and pushed hard on the bottle. It made me come right there, really hard, with the bottle working like a plunger, pushing the garbage deeper inside me and spreading it around to make more room. It felt so good. I wasn't even done coming when I sat back up and pulled the beer bottle out of me and went right back to stuffing my vagina. I noticed a brownish greyish wad of gristle that someone had chewed up and spat out on their plate. Lucky for me, I thought. I shoved it inside me. I found an octopus tentacle, eggplant peels, olive pits, a chicken bone, a Kleenex, I pushed it all inside me until nothing more else would go in. I used the beer bottle as a plunger again, and just like before, I suddenly began to orgasm. This time I was coming because I was so full it hurt. It hurt more when I pushed the bottle. I needed to take as much garbage as I could inside my vagina, so I kept pushing away. I caught myself growling through my teeth from the effort of pushing so hard. I slowly pulled the bottle out when I'd finished coming again, hoping the garbage wouldn't rush right back out. It didn't, so I tried pushing a few bits more inside me.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what they were. By now I'd stuffed myself with as much stinking, disgusting garbage as would fit, and my vagina was stretched as far as it would go. I was wet and filthy all over and shivering from the cold. I stood up as carefully as I could, so none of my garbage would come out of me. But there was no way I could put my clothes back on like this. I peeked out between the wooden doors to the enclosure. Seeing no one, I grabbed my clothes and shuffled, bent over, back to my car as quickly as I